thank you so, so much for taking the time to be here with us today. We have a treat for you. We have our Red to Bold candidate launch meet and greet. We are so excited to have these amazing progressive champions here with us, and especially all of our thanks to you for taking the time to be interested and to meet them. So very quickly, we want this to be as engaging as possible. So please go ahead and turn on your videos if they're not turned on so we can all see each other and engage a little bit more. Some folks are here on Zoom with us. Others are streaming on Facebook. We're meeting people where they are. So we're recording this call. We'll send it to our national membership and select portions of media at its conclusion. And with that, let's dive in. I'm going to pass it over to our co-founder, Adam Green, to say a few words about the vision of the slate and how critical this is. And let's kick it off. Adam, please, the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Rachel. And thanks everybody for joining us, including the candidates. Let me just first by saying why, in the midst of this crazy environment we're living through with COVID, a presidential race, key Senate races, and a Supreme Court hearing happening right now, we are nonetheless so proud to be working with our friend Katie Porter to focus energy and attention on this amazing set of red to bold candidates. 7 bold progressives who can flip Republican congressional districts in areas where Joe Biden also needs to get out every vote, like Michigan, Florida, Texas, even Nebraska, where President Obama won an electoral college vote, and upstate rural New York. The map is expanding everywhere in the final weeks. And what that means is that progressives have a golden opportunity to win everywhere up and down the ballot. And as Katie Porter said yesterday when working with us to announce this slate, she said, quote, "To achieve big change, I need more allies in Congress. I need a crew of bold and progressive leaders who will fight and win." And she said, the good news is that many bold progressives are in prime position now to flip Republican seats like I did in 2018, but they need our help. Something we totally agree with. She also went on to say that this country and our work together in Congress will look very different if these red to bold champions win in November. That these candidates are inspiring voters on issues like Medicare for all, a bold climate change policy, corporate accountability, pro-worker policies, and helping working families. By energizing progressive voters around these ideas, we will also increase turnout for Joe Biden. So it's really a political twofer by investing in these candidates and focusing our attention, empowering them to get out the vote. For those of us who care passionately about winning this election and also care passionately about the issue agenda just around the corner, the simple truth is that the more bold progressives we elect to Congress in the House, the bolder the Democratic Party's agenda overall can be on existential issues ranging from the coronavirus relief to climate change. That's why we're so inspired to support the candidates on the call with us today. Eastman in Nebraska 2nd District, Candace Valenzuela in Texas 24, Dana Balter in New York 24, Mike Siegel in Texas 10, Jon Hoadley in Michigan 6, Julie Oliver in Texas 25, and Pam Keith in Florida 18. I will say yesterday, actress Kerry Washington endorsed this slate. The word is spreading. And she said, "It's time to be bold. It's time for a change. We need to put representatives in office that actually represent us. Redtobold.com, let's make it happen." Mark Ruffalo also endorsed this slate. He played the Hulk in the Avengers movies, and he actually coined a new political phrase yesterday. On Twitter, he wrote, "This is the team. Progvengers assemble." Something that will be coming to a subject line in inboxes near you soon. And the good news is for us and for these candidates, in less than one day, PCCC members made over 3,000 donations, chipping in over $30,000 to this slate of candidates, and we're committed to raising at least 100,000, hopefully much more, at redtobold.com in the days ahead. So thank you to the candidates for inspiring so many people here on the campaign trail. We look forward to sharing this video with our full membership. Thanks to all of our members who will be encouraging to not just donate, but to vote early and to vote in person if you can. And now here's my co-founder, Stephanie Taylor, to introduce our first speaker, Eastman. Stephanie?
Hello, Progvengers assemble. You heard it here first. I want it on a bumper sticker. So I want to say a word about why this is so important. Red to blue matters, or red to bold matters, because the majority of this country is progressive. And polling shows that a majority of people, including Republicans, including independents, not just Democrats, support big ideas like Medicare for all, like a Green New Deal, like public manufacturing of prescription drugs. A huge majority of people want corruption out of our politics and lobbyists out of our government. And we need progressive candidates in office who represent the majority, so we can have a government that represents us. But also we need to show that progressive ideas can and will win in swing districts, in Republican districts, in red districts. And these candidates that you're going to meet today are on the front lines leading that charge. So the first candidate we'll hear from today is Kara Eastman, who, as Adam said, she's running for Congress in Nebraska's 2nd District against Republican incumbent Don Bacon. Kara is a leader. She leads the Omaha Healthy Kids Alliance, which works on getting lead out of drinking water and fighting fracking and pipelines. And Kara decided to run for office when she watched her mom dying of cancer, struggling to afford medicine that costs thousands of dollars a month. And she's running in this swing district to unseat a Republican incumbent on a bold platform of Medicare for all. Kara came within 1 point of beating this Republican in 2018, and now she's back to finish the job. So with that, let me welcome progressive rock star Kara Eastman.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Adam. I am crazy grateful to the P-Trip for everything you've done for me, and know that I would not be here running again if it weren't for you. So thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Kara Eastman, as it has been said, running in Nebraska's 2nd District, the Fighting Second. All eyes are on this district right now because we did give an electoral college vote to Obama in 2008, and it looks like we will, fingers crossed, give that one to Biden and Harris this time as well. So you heard a little bit about my background. Right now, the state of the race is looking pretty good. The newest poll that just came out, I think yesterday, I'm up 3 points. The district has been upgraded to toss up from lean Republican, and early voting has started, and we definitely have the advantage, as everybody does around the country in terms of Democrats voting, but we're also seeing some interesting things happening around independents and even Republicans. So it's an exciting time to be running. Obviously, I have a little experience doing this for the 2nd time. We learned a lot last time, but I think what we're hearing from voters in the 2nd District is that they're tired of having somebody who aligns himself so wholeheartedly with Donald Trump. He's voted 93% of the time with him. And we've managed to do a couple of interesting things. There was no member of Nebraska's delegation. We're all Republican here. That would sign on to the Restaurants Act that would help independent local restaurants. We held a media event and my opponent signed on to the Restaurants Act, but that night actually. But then he just recently voted against the HEROES Act, which had the Restaurants Act in it. He also now is saying that he supports the Affordable Care Act. He was notorious for not voting yes, but hell yes to repeal the Affordable Care Act, voted 5 times to repeal it, and even just voted against expansion of the Affordable Care Act in the pandemic. So he's lying and he's desperate. So we've had 3 debates. We have 1 more coming up this Sunday, and it's been kind of fun to watch him squirm a bit, but we feel like we're pushing him in a different direction, but unfortunately it's just not meeting the needs of what Nebraska needs right now. So thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm super excited and really grateful to be here with incredible people running around the country who truly want to change things for the better, because we have to. There's too many people counting on us to not move forward this way. So thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Kara. And I will note that the American Prospect wrote a piece a couple weeks ago saying that your district could determine the presidency, given variations of the Electoral College math and Nebraska's unique way of assigning electoral college votes. All right. Next up, we're going to hear from someone who actually might be running to a vote soon in his local legislature, Jon Hoadley in Michigan 6. Jon is in a neck-and-neck race against Republican incumbent Fred Upton. one of the worst enemies of the environment and a climate agenda in Congress. Jon is one of many members on this call who's on the DCCC's Red to Blue list. He's endorsed by our friend Elizabeth Warren. If he's elected, he would become the first openly LGBTQ member of the Michigan congressional delegation. And he too is fighting for things like Medicare for all, expanding Social Security, a Green New Deal, and so many other great things. So Jon, I know you have to run soon. I would love to hear from you.
Well, and thank you everybody for being on the call. I'm so appreciative for all the support we're getting from the P-TRIP, because we are in a fight that's going to go right down to the finish line. This is a seat that we finally are in a position to be able to flip from red to not just blue, but bold. And what we know there is that when we do, we're going to be able to make some movement on issues that Michigan families have been calling for too long. I've shared very publicly about my partner, Chris, and our fight to make sure he gets the health care that he needs. If he didn't have insurance, his prescription medications would be $7,200 a month. Fred Upton voted against lowering prescription drug prices. We know that, I know what it's like to have to fight with insurance companies who want to have more say over your treatment than you or your doctor, and that's not right. You know, I'm running against a guy who's got a terrible record when it comes to the environment and climate issues, which is why we need to see bold change on these issues, because it's impacting all of our communities. But look, after 34 years in Congress, Fred Upton is resorted to lies and standing behind some of the worst attacks in the country. Right now, the Victory Fund said that we had the most homophobic attacks in the country against us. And they're twisting my record and my votes on civil liberty issues as well. You know, we're not taking this lightly, though. We're doing an aggressive campaign that is making sure that we're talking to people about issues that they care about, whether that's healthcare, the environment, childcare, long-term care, things of support for our public schools, the actual things that people care about. And we know that the words that they're hiding behind have consequences. We've seen firsthand, you know, in Michigan with the recent attempted violence against our governor, that the folks that are silent have almost as much culpability as the folks that are enabling it. We need your help, though. The voters that we turn out are going to be critical to making sure that we reelect Senator Gary Peters so we can actually stop Mitch McConnell, get Biden-Harris over the finish line in Michigan. And in the event that there's a 12th Amendment situation, Michigan is a tied congressional delegation. So flipping this one seat might be critical to making sure that our state could actually break a tie and cast a vote in January if we need to get to that situation. So all eyes are on Michigan. We're ready to turn out voters and get mobilized progressives to make sure that we get over the finish line. And we thank you for all your help in doing so.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Jon. Thanks for inspiring people in Michigan. And again, another key state in the presidential race as well. So every time we help you get out the vote, we're also helping to win the presidential race. Thrilled to hear next from Candace Valenzuela in Texas's 24th district. Candace is actually, some polls show her leading the Republican in this very flippable race. You know, if she wins, she will become the first Black Latina in Congress. And her personal story is really resonating with so many people on the campaign trail, experiencing homelessness at a young age, working many jobs throughout high school and college to make ends meet, you know, having chronic health conditions in her family and in her life, and bringing a set of very real experiences from Texas, potentially to Congress. That's the kind of you know, leader grounded in our real experiences that we need. She's also endorsed by so many of our progressive friends and campaigning on so many of our issues. Candace, can you tell folks about the latest in your race?
Thank you so much, Adam, and thank you all for being here. I am so happy to be a Progvenger?
It rolls off the tongue after the fourth time.
Progvenger. I need to work on it. In fact, I made a terrible dad joke, and my friends accused me of spending too much time with my husband because of this pandemic. So Edward Norton and Mark Ruffalo donated through the PCCC yesterday. And I said that they donated within minutes of each other. So they guess they contribute in Hulk.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize for the groaning.
Rachel, do we have an applause soundtrack? I don't even know.
Or a tuba. Well, hello, y'all. It's again, we're working really hard here. We suspect that the race is tightening, but the last 3 public polls have shown us 6, 6, and 7 points up. We have been calling hundreds, if not thousands of folks a day now that we have an auto dialer. We're texting. I'm up on television with my very second ad, and I'm talking about my story of going from being homeless as a kid, living in a kiddie pool outside of a gas station, to becoming the first in my family to go to college, to becoming the first woman of color in my school board, and being able to bring progressive change even on a school board that has mostly Republicans, because I'm able to talk to them about the issues that matter to folks, working for a living wage for our food service members and our janitorial staff, making sure that there's one-to-one technology for kids regardless of their income or their neighborhoods, making sure that we protect our schools from gun violence. And now I'm going to take that coalition, expand that coalition, and go to Congress representing the working families of my community. And great news is, after delivering a 20-point lead in my my primary, we're working very hard to overcome this Republican. Beth Van Dyne is the former mayor of Irving. We're both running for this open seat. And her claim to fame, aside from being the first mayor in the country to endorse Donald Trump, was keeping a young boy in police custody for bringing a clock to school while being Muslim, of course. She and Trump are cut from the exact same cloth. And, you know, a lot of Republicans are looking at the policies that I'm advocating for. And they see that it's rooted in taking care of families, and not just Democrat families, but also Republican families, independent families, and families that don't look like mine or theirs, everybody's families. And that's the root of all of this. The root of it is compassion and love. And it's got to be rooted in the fight, but I'm so appreciative to be a part of it, and so appreciative working to bring Texas from red to bold with Julie, of course. And I look forward to talking to you about the victory later on. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing.
Right, Stephanie?
So thank you, Candace. And next we have Dana Balter, who is running in New York's 24th district. And some breaking news, she is ahead by 3 points, and the Cook Report just upgraded this race from leans Republican to toss-up. So this is one of the hottest, closest races in the country, but we feel really great about the race that Dana's running and believe that she can do it. She's running against a Republican incumbent, John Katko, who is just one of 3 House Republicans left in districts that Hillary Clinton won. Dana nearly won in 2018. She's back to finish the job, and she's endorsed by Elizabeth Warren. She's on the D-Trip's Red to Blue list. And Dana is a real fighter. She's been fighting for her family her whole life. She's fighting for Medicare for all, for a Green New Deal. She's taking on big money in politics. She supports universal pre-K, higher wages for workers. So please meet the amazing progressive warrior, Dana Balter.
Thank you so much, Stephanie and Adam, PCCC, the entire organization. PCCC was the first place I went to learn how to be a candidate. And I have not forgotten all of the lessons that I learned in that first conference. And I'm really excited to be running on a slate of amazing candidates, some of whom were at that conference with me 3 years ago. I am an educator and organizer running in New York's 24th district. I believe that every person deserves a fair shot at success. And that's what we as a government should be doing, ensuring that everyone has that. And for me, that belief comes from a lot of very early in life experiences. My younger brother has cognitive disabilities, and the experience of moving through the world by his side really shaped how I see things. Some of my earliest memories are walking with him through the neighborhood and defending him from bullies, teaching him how to do things that most of us take for granted and learn really easily, like how to tie your shoes or how to tell time. And year after year, I got to watch my parents, who were incredible advocates, make sure that he had the opportunities and resources he needed to thrive. And my takeaway from those experiences is that every person in our society deserves dignity and access and opportunity. And I want to serve in Congress because I want to make sure that those very simple but very important values are at the heart of every law that we pass. I am running in a district where the median income is only about $52,000 a year. I'm running in a district where the hollowing out of our manufacturing industry has had a profound and lasting effect. I'm running in a district where our main city, the city of Syracuse, is the 18th poorest city in the country, and the city that has the single highest rate of extreme poverty among Black and brown households in the entire country. The people of the 24th district need a champion in Congress who is going to fight for good policy that puts working families first, who is going to help rewrite the rules of the economy and of our political system so that it serves everyday folks instead of the already powerful and well-connected. And I am running against a man who does nothing but reinforce the system as it exists. He's taken millions of dollars in corporate PAC money and consistently votes in their interests. He voted for Donald Trump's 2017 tax law and still tells us that it was a good idea and it makes us better off. In fact, he endorsed Donald Trump for re-election this year, and he looked us in the eye and said, "We are better off as a country than we were 3 years ago." I can't think of a thing he could say that makes it clearer that he is completely out of touch with the experiences of everyday people in our district and across this country. And I know from thousands of conversations with voters across Central and Western New York that the vast majority of people here, as with the vast majority of people across the country, want minimum wages to be living wages, want workers to have power over their own lives, want a political system that's responsive to our needs instead of entrenched wealthy interests, want healthcare access, that people can go to their doctors and afford to fill their prescriptions without the risk of going bankrupt, and want good, sound environmental policy that means that we can safely breathe the air and drink the water and eat the food that grows in the ground. And I cannot wait to get to Washington, D.C. in January with this amazing slate of candidates and a huge freshman class to bring that kind of bold, progressive agenda to Congress. Thank you so much for your support.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dana. And thanks for reminding folks that you were part of the PCCC National Candidate Training. I think you, Cara, and Pam have all been through our training.
And Candace.
And Candace, yes, that's right, 4 out of 7. And I remember Pam, we'll get to her coming up. I think she blew away Tom Perez when she introduced him at one of our events there. So we very intentionally made her the wrap-up speaker here to just like, and a shebang. All right, next up is Julie Oliver, running in Texas's 25th district. This is a perfect example of a race that 3 months ago, most prognosticators probably wouldn't have said, oh, this is doable. DCCC just added her to the red to blue list. Stephanie and I talked to her a couple days ago and learned about some of her recent fundraising success, which she can share us on. We knew that she was endorsed already by Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. And is running on things like Medicare for All and the Green New Deal with passion and fire. And this is also someone who comes to Congress with a real personal story, growing up poor in a working class community, and is bringing a whole set of experiences and inspiring people with a whole set of experiences as she runs for Congress. So Julie, let's have our members hear from you. So excited.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Julie Oliver, and I'm running to represent and serve the 25th Congressional District here in Texas. And thank you, Adam and Stephanie, and all of you who are sharing your lunch hour with me. I could not be prouder to be standing in this fight with all of these red to bold candidates, but especially my Texas candidates, Mike Siegel and Candace Valenzuela. So incredibly proud of our state, y'all. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. I woke up this morning, people sent me pictures of the lines, where the early voting locations were, and I started crying. And I was like, this is what it's about. It's about being so incredibly grateful for this gift we have that is the vote. And if I talk about it too long, I'm going to start crying again. So I'm going to move on. And I'm incredibly grateful for Representative Porter's leadership as well in Congress. And she definitely inspires me. And of course, we all need to send her reinforcements. So proud that we are all going to get sworn in together next year and provide those reinforcements to her. I'll share a quick Cliff Notes version of my story. I ran away from home when I was a teen, 17-year-old young girl, lived in abandoned buildings, dropped out of high school, and then I got pregnant. And I will tell you that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because I went back home knowing that I didn't want to have a child living on the streets. And I'm so grateful my mom took me back in, but I'm also incredibly grateful for the social safety net. We didn't have insurance in our family. I was a Medicaid mom whose insurance benefits ran out the day she turned 18. So we're uninsured for years, but was able to go on to college and law school with a young family. And this is my way of trying to give back to the folks who very generously gave to my success. And the daughter that I had 30 years ago as a 17-year-old mom, she just graduated with her doctorate. So I could not be prouder as a mom. Healthcare is the reason I'm in this fight. I also had a son in law school. I affectionately call him the walking pre-existing condition, because he has cardiac issues and an immune deficiency. And when Congress voted to repeal the Affordable Care Act in 2017, I looked at my husband, I said, honey, I'm gonna run for Congress. They don't know what they're doing. And so that set me off on this 3-year journey that everybody said, why would you pick that district? It can never be done. And we have taken a 21-point margin held by the Republican, shaved 19 points off of his lead. And we're gonna finish the job in 3 weeks. We're gonna finish the job. There's a lot of work to be done. Healthcare, climate change, education, ensuring that folks coming out of college aren't saddled with tens of thousands of dollars worth of debt. But we also know that there is a status quo that doesn't want any change when it comes to Congress and the laws we pass. And we know that corporations have an undue influence in who gets elected and what laws do get passed. So in Congress, I want to author a bill called Tax Corporate PACs and tax them onerously, revoke the tax exempt status of corporate PACs, tax them at 90%. So for every $10,000 contribution that goes into a corporate PAC, maybe $1,000 goes to the intended recipient, $9,000 goes into a pool of money for publicly financed campaigns. So let's use our tax code to our benefit, and let's get real representation in all of these seats. And I will finalize it by saying this. The guy I'm running against is a man who votes again with Trump, just like everybody else, about 95% of the time. He took the payroll protection program assistance for his car dealership while being one of the wealthiest members of Congress, and then voted to keep it a secret. Proud of Representative Porter's stance of wanting to make this transparent so that any Congress members who took the federal assistance, it would become publicly available. He voted to keep that a secret. And then he also turned around and said 0 was the number that families should get, or anybody who was laid off or furloughed because of the pandemic. 0 was the number he thought they should get in federal unemployment assistance. So it will be my great pleasure to see this man into retirement. And I'm grateful for y'all and your support. And thank you for being here today, taking time out of your day and caring so much for this fragile thing that we have called a democracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. I love Julie's transparency and anti-corruption platform. I think that it's incredibly important, especially for Democrats that are running like she is, like all of these candidates, to unseat Republicans. This is a really important issue that Democrats can and should own and be running on everywhere.
Be on a minute.
I'm pleased to now introduce another Texas candidate. This candidate, Mike Siegel, he's running in Texas 10. He ran in 2018. He came within 4 points of defeating the Republican incumbent, Mike McCall. Now it's a 2-point race. Mike is on the D-Trip's Red to Blue list. He's endorsed by Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. Mike has fought Texas Republicans to demand gun reform. He sued the Secretary of State when Republicans shut down mobile voting sites. Mike has been running a great, bold, progressive campaign on Medicare for all, on a Green New Deal, on police reform, housing for all. And so I'm so glad you get to meet him today. He's the real deal. Mike?
Right on. Well, thank you, Stephanie and Adam and PCCC and Julie, of course. Great to see you as always. So yeah, I'm Mike Siegel, a 21-year public servant. I've been a school teacher, a teachers union organizer, most recently a a civil rights lawyer and a city attorney. And we've built a broad coalition to take back the Texas 10th from Republican Michael McCall, who's a loyal Trump ally, the person that co-authored the Muslim ban. He was chairman of Homeland Security during the family separation policy. And he's recently known for refusing to wear a mask, both on the House floor and on a commercial plane he's flying on. We got 3 million people to watch that video. So he's very much vulnerable. One thing I'll share with you today is that we have a second poll showing we're in a statistical tie with McCall. Actually, we've got it down to 1 point in the latest thing. We're going to release that in the next 20 minutes or so. So this is another one of these amazing toss-up opportunities where your support is going to go a long way. Because when you invest in Candace and Julie and I, you're helping us flip these seats. You're giving courage to this whole rising progressive wave in Texas. And then you're also helping us elect Joe Biden. And obviously, if Biden wins Texas, it's game over on election night. So we've got a really exciting thing happening here. And, I've basically been using my experience as an organizer, both when I was in the teachers union, later as a lawyer. I've kind of been a part of these movement cases to build a really broad coalition and to take on these issues that, maybe the more moderates are less willing to do so. Like Julie, who's run strong on Medicare for All. I'm running on strong on Medicare for All. And I've also talked a lot about the Green New Deal. Even though my district touches the Houston oil patch, includes a lot of fossil fuel workers, a coal plant in the middle of the district, we've been talking about climate change and how we need to have a national mobilization to create millions of jobs, to build a renewable economy. And I think this really is our New Deal moment, y'all. I mean, think of all the crises we're facing right now: massive unemployment, climate change, attacks on our democracy. This is the time to mobilize federal resources to put every American to work who wants a good job, to rebuild our infrastructure, to prepare for a sustainable future. And the Republicans, for all their talk about how much they love fossil fuels, they're not taking care of Texas oil and gas workers. We've lost 50,000 oil and gas jobs since this pandemic. They don't even have a solution for that. And so to me, once you elect this slate, the Prevengers, and all these other wonderful people across the country who have been winning races, running as progressives, I think we can put a lot of wonderful things in place early 2021 to bring jobs, homes to our communities, and to show that we can deliver, that we're not just talking the talk, but that we're gonna do the work and make good things happen. And so we've got a wonderful chance, 3 weeks to go. Like Julie mentioned, amazing turnout. This is the first day of early voting in Texas. There are hours-long lines, and this time it's not about voter suppression. It's about people being that excited to vote. And so have a wonderful chance to win this race. Would be honored to earn your continued support and look forward to the Q&A. Wonderful. So we just got some breaking news here on this Zoom call, huh? You heard it here first, Adam. All right, amazing. Thank you, Mike. All right, so honored to introduce Pam Keith, running in Florida's 18th district. Pam, I hope I didn't pump up the expectations too high before. But Pam, during our candidate training, clearly rocked the how to make your stump speech part of it. And that's partly because she's been speaking in public for so long all her life. As a Navy lawyer and as a labor lawyer, she's been an advocate for the people. One thing about Pam is she's been on the front lines of so many fights and will bring so much to Congress. She's lived all over the world, has seen the impact of our policies and other policies all across the country. She's been in the courtroom advocating for workers. But one thing, Pam, I don't know if you remember this, after the first Democratic presidential debate, Elizabeth Warren went to one of the child detention centers, and I went along,
very much.
check it out, Homestead, I believe, in Florida. And who do I see? They're on the front lines, Pam Keith, doing her thing, rallying people, talking to the media, making the case for these children. So she really brings such a valuable experience, also obviously running on so many of these great issues, Medicare for All, Green New Deal, endorsed by our friend Ayanna Pressley and Elizabeth Warren. So Pam, bring us home, my friend.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. First of all, thank you all to PCCC. The beginning of my journey as a progressive in Florida was a little bit fraught, but PCCC was there, and I'm so grateful for that. I want to just kind of share the nuts and bolts with you, who I am and what I am, what does this race look like, and what are the key issues, and why we're going to win. For who I am and what I am, I was born a pugilist. I don't know why God made me that way, but he made me a person who likes to debate and to argue and to get in the mix. And I've always been that way. I've also been deeply, deeply empathetic to the suffering of others. It's something that drives me bananas. Anytime I see somebody being bullied or beaten up or hurt or suffering, I feel like compelled to step in and try to help. And so that's who I am. My backstory is just that I'm the daughter of a diplomat. I was born overseas projecting American values. And even though my father, at the time that he first started serving his country, was living in a segregated state where he couldn't even attend college, he was still so inspired by the concept of a government by and for the people, and one that can be made more perfect by its people, that he committed his entire adult life to serving this country, and he taught me that same value. So I don't have to see my country as perfect or to ignore its failures. I simply have to be committed personally to trying to make it that more perfect union for all of us. I followed my father's footsteps right out of law school. I joined the U.S. Navy as a Navy JAG. It was an amazing experience, obviously. I did some criminal defense work early on. That was my first job in Norfolk. And got to understand some of the things that we criminalize that really ought not be criminalized. Then I did a tour for 2 years in Bahrain, sort of representing and supporting our service members as they were deployed underway, and executing mission, which gives you a very different kind of look on what our military goes through and what our veteran families and surviving family members go through. And then I came back, I did a year in computer network security. I actually got a top secret clearance. This is why I can tell you for sure that Jared and Ivanka could never get a clearance. I know for a fact the kind of risk that we have put on the United States by giving so much secret information to so many people unworthy of the trust of holding that. And so I do have this space where I can really start to talk about national security issues in a way that a lot of folks do not expect me to do. To tell you about Florida 18, it is the wackiest district out there. And I can claim that because it went 20 points blue and 10 points red back to back, right, in congressional cycles. That's not shifts in population. That is shifts in momentum. Florida is not really a swing district so much as a seesaw district. It can go wildly one way or the other, or it can go narrowly one way or the other, depending on what's going on politically, nationally, as well as what's going on in the district. It contains 3 counties, one of which looks a lot like Mar-a-Lago. Palm Beach County, the northern part of Palm Beach County is very wealthy, it's very affluent, a lot of golf communities, and a ton of retirees. Martin County is super red, but it has pockets of blue that have been ignored by Democrats because it is perceived to be so red that a lot of Democrats just don't even try there. And then St. Lucie County is one of the few counties in Florida that has a significant African-American population and a significant Democratic population that is not in the major city centers. And so we are a little bit off the beaten path. The money that gets poured into the ads from Miami-Dade, Broward, Orlando, Tampa is not necessarily messaging here. And that is why it is so important that we have a strong Democrat that energizes this population. And so it's kind of weird to have a Democrat that energizes the Black population, but has the bona fides to sort of get with those more center corporate people, but then also has an environmental track record, and then also, can challenge the incumbent in a way to destabilize him. And that's the state of the race now. The incumbent's a guy named Brian Mast, but he is not the only Republican on our ballot. We actually have 2 Republicans on our ballot because Florida is a closed primary state. And in a closed primary state, independents and non-party candidates go directly to the November ballot. So we have Brian Mast, who's super Trumpy, and K.W. Miller, who is even more super Trumpy, if that is even possible. I mean, KW is one of those QAnon conspiracy theorists and over-the-top racist. I mean, just unbelievable. He thinks that Patti LaBelle is part of the deep state being paid by George Soros to bring Barack Obama back to the presidency. I don't know if you know this, but yeah. And of course, Beyonce is not actually Black. She's Italian pretending to be Black so that she can get attention. Just needed to clarify that for you. So the interesting thing about Miller is that he is going to be pulling 4 to 5% of the vote away from Brian Mast. That is already happening. It is holding steady. And we know that that is going to create a real problem for Brian. We are, just like the others, hot off the presses with poll numbers. We are up by 2 points. And unlike the others who've had really a lot of folks that believed it was winnable for a while, right? What we put out is putting the prognosticators back on their heels because they believed so much that this was not a winnable district given the underperformance of 2018. And these are the key fundamentals that are changing that dynamic. Number one, an energized African-American community. I live and work and go to church and I'm in the sorority here in the Black community. I have credibility with the influencers that is not transactional. Number two, as you are seeing nationally, Joe Biden is killing it with people over 65. He's doing so much better than we did in 2016 with that same population. In my district, Hillary lost people over 65 by 9 points. Joe was leading them by 8 points. That is a 17-point turnaround in the 6th most senior district in the country. And then the third component, which is I am a veteran and the incumbent is an Army veteran. In the past, he used that veteran status not only to get respect, but to bludgeon Democrats claiming that we're not patriotic. Well, you know, Brian is learning what it means to be on the defensive because he's sure not out-patrioting me. He will not be out-patrioting me. Moreover, I am far more pugilistic. That natural tendency to want to mix it up is showing up in new and creative ways. Brian has been on the defensive and on the apology tour since the first week after the primary. We figured out how to box him into the things that he said and the things that he hasn't said. And both are working against him. He's the guy who gave Donald Trump an A for his response to coronavirus. And that has blown up in his face over and over again. Yeah. So this is Florida 18 and why it's so important. It is the one part of Florida where you can get a significant surge in Democratic turnout that isn't accounted for elsewhere in the state. Think of it this way. The bottom is blue. The top is red, the Panhandle, Tallahassee, Jacksonville. The middle is purple. You get Tampa, Orlando, half and half. That all cancels each other out. So what's left? Where do you get another big population center that can move one way or another? The Palm Beaches. It moves one way, it goes red. Moves the other way, it goes blue. It is moving blue.
Wonderful.
If it does, not only do I flip the seat, but I also flip control of the Florida delegation. Again, so important for the Electoral College. So that's my story, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Pam. And again, every bit of money we can get to this campaign to get out the vote is also helping Joe Biden.
Absolutely.
And
we're both AKAs, I might say, myself and Kamala Harris. We are in the same sorority.
Another fun fact. So, you know, one thing I'll just put on people's radar about Florida, you know, on election night, you know, there's definitely an importance to the sequence of how results come in and how it impacts the national debate, the conventional wisdom the next day, the next couple of weeks. And in this particular year, so many scenarios that will flow out of November 3rd. Many states, including Michigan, where John's from, until just last week when they changed it, prohibited local election officials from opening absentee ballots until the day of the election. Michigan just added 24 hours to get that process moving. Florida, despite having some unfortunate laws on other levels, actually has 22 days where their local election officials can open the envelopes, process them, and that means on election night, we will get some of the most fully baked results in the whole nation from Florida. And if Joe Biden wins Florida, that impacts all the scenarios that flow from there, including many potential crisis scenarios. So again, it's so important that we help Pam get out the vote in the swing area of Florida. It really could impact the entire national election. So we have a little bit more time. If you have any questions, please chat Rachel. You can see her in the chat part of your screen. And we're going to kick things off with my co-founder, Stephanie, asking a question to a couple of candidates here. Let's try to keep the answers short on this one just so we can get to a few questions. Stephanie?
Okay, this is for anyone who wants to take a crack at this. Why is progressive messaging winning messaging? Why do you think, based on what you've found as you've run for office, that it's better to run a bold progressive campaign in a swing district or in a district that leans red? And it can be for anyone.
Can I start?
I see Dana raising.
Okay. So I think the reason that it works is because it's what people need. It reflects what people want. And I know this personally because my story is the voter's story, right? I know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. I know what it's like to have a pre-existing condition and not be able to find health insurance and watch the medical debt mount and not know how you're going to pay it. I get those challenges. And when I'm out there talking to voters, those are the things that they're worried about. And that's what they want somebody to address. That's what they're looking for from government, is to make their lives just a little bit easier. And we know from polling that the vast majority of Americans support progressive policies, access to healthcare for everybody, an economy that prioritizes workers and requires minimum wages be living wages, a political system that's responsive to our needs instead of corporate interests. As you said earlier, nobody is looking for somebody to say, I stand up for corruption in government. I want to keep the powerful corporations in charge, right? They want someone who's responsive to their needs. That's what progressive values are about. And for too long, we've let the Republicans spin this narrative that it's somehow a fringe agenda. It's not. It's mainstream America. And all you have to do is talk to voters to know that.
Nice. Cara, do you have anything? Cara, has anybody ever accused you of being too progressive for Nebraska?
Oh, never, never. You should see the ads. Oh my gosh. Today they say I want to get rid of cars and airplanes and make everyone eat tofu in the heartland. It's ridiculous.
Nothing against tofu.
Yeah. I think it also cuts through the noise. I think that everybody runs as I'm not a politician, but then they get there and then they're a politician and they succumb to corporate interests and become a party hack. And so I think that it sets the tone for cutting through that you're proving from the get-go that you're not going to do politics the way it's traditionally been done.
I just want to add, Adam, something that I've noticed, and that is if you look at all of the candidates that spoke today and all the candidates that I've run into that are running on a bold progressive platform, every single one is incredibly impressive. Not necessarily in the same way that we believed in the past a politician should be impressive, right? Not necessarily because they come from great wealth or great power or have all the degrees or whatever, but they all have this kind of bone deep empathy and life experience and authenticity and credibility. And if there is something that voters want right now, it is the belief, again, that they can have a representative that actually cares about them. And that is the thing that I think is just exudes out of every single person who spoke today. And every person that I see on the progressive side is this deep empathy that drives our willingness to go out there and fight for people. And that's what they want. It's the boldness and it's the empathy and the compassion, that connection to people's existence.
All right, before we pivot to Rachel, anybody from Texas want to answer that question?
I like to answer it this way. I like to tell people that progressive policies actually are the ones that make financial sense. So you can do the right thing and you can, save money at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive whatsoever. When you make an investment in a person, that will reap dividends in the future. I mean, I'm living proof of that. But that's how I couch it in Texas.
And just to add a little bit to Julie, we've got a noted populist from Texas, Jim Hightower, kind of a legend in politics here. And he likes to say it's not about left versus right, it's about bottom versus top, right? And so the idea that we're fighting for working people, against the corporate interests that might impact both parties, right? And that we're trying to make sure that everyone has the basics in life to succeed. I think that does resonate as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. All right, I think we can sneak in a few calls from some of our friends on the line here. We have a really great question from Louise Stonington. Miss Louise, what is your question that you'd like to throw out to the candidates?
Yeah, thanks. Economists have been saying for 15 years or more that burning fossil fuels and climate damage is way more expensive for society than switching to clean energy and efficiency and better technology. How do you see us making that happen?
Well, I will jump in just because I come from the Sunshine State. And I also once worked for a corporation that's the biggest producer of clean and renewable energy. And one of the things that I'm running on, a platform idea, is to turn my district into the solar research and development hub of the country, because we have the infrastructure already in place to do that. And we, of course, have the weather that makes that appealing. And so one of the things I would love to be working with my progressive brothers and sisters on is asserting affirmatively that the United States is going to embrace with everything it's got the development and the distribution of solar as our principal source of energy. And I think to some extent, because we don't have a lot of oil and gas interests in Florida, it's a little bit easier to get that across the line than it might be in a state like Texas. And we have that year-round sunshine, and, major airports and all of that. So I think I'm selling this as jobs and the economy. I'm selling climate policy as a way for us to get more jobs, more, I sell it from a sort of GOP-ish kind of perspective, like, hey, this is going to bring money to our state and our area, and we can lead, and we're already there, so let's take advantage of that.
Thank you, Pam. Mike, jump in there.
Well, sure, yeah, and actually today I just released a video with the Sunrise Movement, actually about 30 minutes ago, to kind of talk about how labor is a big part of this as well. I mean, Texas is the national leader in wind energy, growing solar. I mean, we can do geothermal, all sorts of stuff here. And it's about priorities and also facing facts. I mean, I think the Republicans have had their heads in the sand, right? Refusing to listen to the climate scientists, refusing even to listen to their Chevron scientists who knew about the fossil fuel impacts on climate change decades ago. And I think the key from the way I see it is it's an organizing question. How do we get, for example, Texas fossil fuel workers on board with this idea of a Green New Deal or a national jobs program that confronts climate change? And I think this economic crisis we're in right now is actually an opportunity, because folks are already losing their jobs, in part because of the pandemic, part because of what Saudi Arabia and Russia are doing in terms of dumping products on the market. And so now is really a time to say, hey, we're not coming to take your job, we're coming to create good jobs that you can transition to. And then maybe if you're older, we just need to make sure that you retire with a comfortable and dignified amount of support. And so I think that if we build a coalition, and we need to start with bite-sized pieces. It could be the research program in Florida. It could be re-employing oil and gas workers in Texas. We're not going to flip a switch. It's not going to be just one piece of legislation. Like the original New Deal was a 15-year package. We have to do it bit by bit. Electric vehicles, efficient housing, and on down the line. And so I do think we don't have time to waste, of course. So hopefully the next Congress can really take this on in a major way.
Thank you, Mike. All right, folks, we got another question from our friend Linda Burgin. Miss Linda, what is your question for the candidate?
My question is that I've always been convinced that there are more Democrats and more independents than there are Republicans. I think the issue is that we don't vote, or some of us. And I know there's a huge GOTV effort going out. I wanted to know what they're doing to get into the nooks and crannies and get everybody out to vote, especially with some of the lines that we're seeing and the glitches, quote, going on, because I think that's the real key.
Thank you, Linda. All right, folks, candidates, Miss Julie, please go ahead.
So the district I'm running in is a 13-county district. And I'll tell you, in 2018, when I ran during get out the vote time, we only had manpower to maybe hit 4 counties, 2 at a time. We are in 10, actively every week in 10 of the 13 counties. Doing lit drops, we have a special get out the vote lit piece of literature for the doors that talks about what the early voting days are, has a QR code so people can scan it with their phone and see where the closest polling location is. We actually have on our website as well a whole page about voting, answering questions. What does it look like? Texas, unfortunately, stops voter registration 30 days in front of an election. So October 5th was the last day to get registered to vote. But part of this, knowing we were heading into that blackout period, we did a ton of work to get people registered to vote. And in Texas, I think we added 1.8 million new voters to the rolls, which is remarkable. So ensuring that they get out to vote is the name of the game. And it is really talking to people every day. We do phone banks, texting, and then lit drops.
Thank you, Julie. Does other folks want to jump in on that?
I would just add that because getting out the vote is the most important thing right now, if you would like to help, all voter outreach is happening remotely because of the pandemic. We're not going to knock on doors and talk to voters. We're calling and texting, and you can do that from anywhere. So I'm sure the PCCC is going to be giving out our website information if you would like to sign up. I know on my website, we've got signups for text banks and phone banks happening every day between now and Election Day. And every single call you make and every single text you send is another voter we can get to the polls. And as we've said before, the numbers are on our side. If we get our voters out, we win everywhere.
Thank you so much, Dana. All right, Adam, back to you.
Okay, well, I will take that as a hint and drop everybody's website information into the chat in 1 second. 1 second. Let's do that right now.
And while Adam's doing that, folks have been G-chatting me, bravo, thank you for being here. There was this amazing quote that Karen sent us. She said, filled with hope and bawling my eyes out, I can see now where democracy has been gathering. Thanks for bringing us all together. So that's,
Totally.
thank you,
Yeah,
Karen.
seriously. A huge thanks, Rachel, for making that point. And a big thanks to the candidates for just taking the time out of your really busy schedule to join us. Again, we're gonna be sending this video to our membership. And in this somewhat bleak time, hearing from you genuinely is a source of hope and motivation for so many people. Genuine thank you. And during the course of this call, I just checked ActBlue, dozens of donations are still coming in on redtobold.com. And I think it would just be informative, maybe as a final question to folks, 30 seconds or so each. If someone's thinking, I've given so much this cycle, I wasn't planning on giving more, I don't know how much more I can give, should I give 10 bucks or 100 bucks? Our main point is we're expanding the map, and this is the time to go with genuinely red to bold House candidates. But where does the next, $1,000 go? Where's the next $10,000 go? If you just give people some transparency into that, that would be awesome. Dana, do you want to go first?
Sure. So one of the things that is great about running in upstate New York in the Syracuse area is how inexpensive our media market is here. The biggest campaign expense we have is paid communications. It's reaching voters through television. And when you make a contribution here, that money goes a long way. $1,000 in our district pays to run a 30-second commercial during the 5 o'clock news, which is when the most likely voters are watching. So an individual contribution makes a huge impact in how many voters we can reach, and that's what the money is being spent on.
Thanks.
Yeah, just to add to Dana, this is the final push. Julie and I are in races where the difference could be hundreds of votes. And so, if we can pump another $1,000 into digital ads, and that can reach thousands of voters in a very targeted way. For me, I've got this ad where Michael McCall takes off his mask on a plane and he refuses to put it back on, and then he lies about it. And so if we can just send that to all these moderate Republican independent voters in Harris County near Houston, to make sure they know that, he's basically like Trump, disregarding science, disregarding public safety, that can make a big difference. So every dollar does really help at this stage.
Yeah, we have an ad going up tomorrow where I've been endorsed by a prominent Republican state senator who got some national attention for calling out Republicans for being complicit with white supremacy. And so your money can help push that ad out, because it's going to be really good.
And I'll just chime in super quick. I'll keep very, very brief. This is a different era in which we're having the campaign, and it is more expensive because of the technology we're using and because we have to go to the airwaves to get our messages out. If we were able to knock doors and actually send an army out to have conversations on porches, which we know are incredibly effective means of communicating with voters, this would be a different story. But television is probably one of the most expensive ways to reach a voter. Digital ads are expensive, mailers, relational organizing applications, radio, all of that. So yes, it really is. And I do agree with Mike. This is not going to be a landslide race in our races. It's going to be won by maybe 1,000 votes. It's going to be tight, but we can do it. I know we can.
I would say that, I do have quite an advantage over my opponent with 600 volunteers. And we are going to be doing some door knocking because we have a population in our district that's just not reachable any other way. Again, we have a lot of people over 65, and there's a slice of that population that is just not digital. And so we are going to be doing that in a targeted way. But the biggest thing is that, my opponent got embroiled in a scandal in which he was encouraging his 30-year-old campaign manager to have have sex with 15-year-old girls. And our hard-hitting ad on that has really hit his popularity with women voters. So we want to pour some more money in expanding that buy. And we also have another buy that's really focused on his callous disregard for the death and suffering, from coronavirus. I mean, he still thinks Donald Trump is doing a great job on it. And so we are also spending on commercials to really hammer that message as well.
Okay, is there anyone we didn't hear from yet who's still on? All right, wonderful. Well, again, redtobold.com, we're gonna keep pumping it. Know that you're inspiring people across the country in these swing states. And again, thank you for being bold progressives and prog-vengers. It was wonderful assembling with you today. Let's keep it up. Thanks, everybody.